Yes, you are now listening to the sounds of Sports Reports' order. Mr. Logical 25, aka the Rap Ali, Jab I weave and come back with the same jab times 3. Sports Reports ordered is back, folks. Like, review, subscribe. Thanks for showing us the love. Thanks for all the Facebook followers. Tonight,
Appreciate that.
preview season is still going. Hopefully, you caught 25 top 25 thoughts last night about college football. But tonight, we're going to talk about the AFC West as we make our way through the AFC this time around. And then, the uncomfortable conversation. Some of these coaches that we see on the sidelines will not be there next year. Who are they?
Yeah, we've been pretty accurate with this over the last few years.
Yeah. There's always like a few curveballs that come at us, so we'll see where the conversation
Hackett was a curveball. We'll get into that.
I mean, he definitely deserved it, but yeah, I didn't expect it to happen when it did. Like I thought, but on the other hand, I thought Dennis Allen was going to be gone. So
I think quarterback injuries kind of give you it gives you a little bit of a cushion.
Yeah, it does. You know what I mean? But they just had a lot going on last year. But how about this? Like, not to be doing the spoiler thing, but Dan Campbell ain't on the hot seat. Who would have thought that a couple years ago?
Yo, as soon as you said bite kneecaps, I'm like, man, fire fuego, put gasoline under his seat. As soon as I heard him say we go bite kneecaps, we gonna go back there, we gonna bite him again. I'm like, I think he had something in his head, and then when he started talking, it didn't come out like he probably had like Shannon Sharp has those sayings. My grandmother said this, a blind squirrel will find a mouse, and he kind of did, like something like that.
Yeah.
I think he had something like that locked in. So then when he started talking, like he just went with the biting kneecaps.
See,
and
I
just
had
kept going with it.
I had the opposite.
Because it might have been something like more of a mafia term, probably like we're gonna take kneecaps out or something along those lines. And I think he messed up and said biting kneecaps and just went.
See, it had the opposite effect on me when he said it. I was like, "Damn it, Washington messed up again." You know what I'm saying?
By not hiring him?
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Oh, you were into it like that?
Oh, yeah, I was into it, man. That took me back to the old school, Like, I've been waiting for a coach in Washington that, like, brings a certain fire. Like, we keep hiring all these, like, meek dudes and, like, dudes that just don't have that energy, And Ron Rivera, I like him from the standpoint of culture, and he's obviously, like, turned Washington around as far as the inside of the building. Maybe that he gets a lot of credit for that, I hear. But at the same time, when I look at him,
they don't look dysfunctional on the field.
Yeah.
They just don't look like winners. But I think that's something that I don't know if he was ever really a winner. I think he just had.
That's what I was about to say. But when I looked at him, I was just like, no disrespect. I know you came up under Andy Reid, but what you've done outside of the Cam Newton years, and I just get him out of here. I'm ready for the Bieniemy era.
I mean, you got a shot.
You know what I'm saying? But yes, it's that time of show, ladies and gents. Get it off my chest. You know what I'm saying? I guess I'll get us started. I'm going to be positive, believe it or not. Like, I dug deep into my soul to find this. But I want you all to know that the word of the day is perseverance. Life is always going to have obstacles. It's always going to knock you down. And what is measured of greatness is not how many times you get knocked down, but how many times you get up. I know you've heard that before. So I say that to say, John Metchie is back. He came and played in preseason last week, had a catch for 5 yards. This guy had all the reasons to give up. Back in 2021, he got injured during the SEC title game. Well, I'm sorry, the national title game against Georgia. He got injured end of his college career. The year before that, he got injured against Georgia in the SEC title game. And then he came into the NFL draft, got picked up by the Texans, and found out that he had leukemia. And, so he's been on the road to recovery, fighting back through the struggle to get back to where he is today, which he's probably the best receiver on the Texans roster right now. So, that just goes to show you that no matter what life throws at you, you have the choice to respond in the way that you respond. Circumstances don't make you respond. What's inside of you makes you respond. So, long story short, when life gives you lemonades, when life pisses on your bed, you just flip the mattress and you make juice out of that shit. Be like John Metchie.
Yeah, I respect it. Yeah, that's you hear about people and terminal diseases. Like I said, I just retired from the Air Force. Like I said, I was medically retired. So you deal with the doctor's appointments. Like I said, I can only get blood drawn out of this left arm, and I'm gonna say the calendar from summer 2020 probably through fall 2021, and I probably had my blood drawn like 40, 45 times. Like just every doctor visit, different little. I get a message from my doctor. Hey, go get this blood drawn. I go there. He's like, I want to see you again in 2 weeks. I need to get blood this week, and then you need to get this. So like just sitting in there, just like to the point where like I go get my blood drawn. The phlebotomist, we have a conversation. She's like, oh, you got this your kid now. He's this, and like it's like a family thing because I'm in there so often. So I understand, like man, that struggle to get back to health. But to get back to health and then get back to such a physical sport, I mean, there's all the credit in the world to that man's perseverance. So it's like, so I admire the positivity. I'm about to get real negative though. Not really negative, honestly. Like my get off my chest is just the joint practices, the NFL joint practices, and and then the subsequent fights that come from like practice. Just this this intensity that feels a bit forced. It feels as if the NFL is the greatest Broadway show known to man. We love it. We spend money on it. The way people were spending $20,000 a ticket to see Hamilton, the way Lin Manuel is making, I think he made like $5 or $6 million the first year. Hamilton came out. Roger Goodell is probably making 45 to 50 million this year off the NFL. It is a Broadway production. I'm just not a fan of making everything a production. We are going to watch the sport. Me and Mike are about to talk about it for the next 55 to 65 minutes. There's highlights on YouTube. I got an iPad here. I'm watching the preseason game, Falcons versus Bengals. We're going to watch. Stop setting up these deliberate events to where people are potentially not necessarily getting hurt because of practice, but it doesn't seem beneficial for players at this level to need to test their practice skills against another team that they're going to play in the preseason game already. So I'm already going to play in the preseason game. I already have my own starting lineup to practice against. I have my own NFL ones, offensively and defensively. So it's not like I can't figure out how to get my offense to score against a top defense when I have one. It's not like I can't figure out if my defense can battle with a top offense because I have one. I don't need the Houston Texans to bring their guys in and the Carolina Panthers bring their guys in for us to get in a fight, i.e. Mark Andrews body slamming the dude because that dude's trying to make a name for himself. He's trying to get a spot.
Yeah, hurt his rotator cuff.
Hurt his rotator cuff. They said he's day-to-day, but the fact that, like, if he puts his arm down any kind of way, now what's the repercussions for Mark Andrews? Like, do you suspend him? And that's why you got a guy get suspended or slammed for practice?
You can't.
You can't.
Because you saw Aaron Donald out here swinging helmets and didn't get
swinging helmets. So. Nothing happened. They got all these brawls. And one thing about athletes, listen, I'm not going to front. They're big, strong dudes. Most of them can't fight. Just you could use. It's plenty of videos of like the offensive lineman for the Raiders getting knocked out in a Walmart. Most of them can't fight. That's why Dak Prescott getting mollywopped out of concert.
But you know what? Cortland Finnegan would disagree with that.
Yo, They was missing. They was just throwing hate. Like even Deion Sanders and Andre Rison, super iconic fight. They was slapping each other in the helmet, giving each other hand hurt.
Jalen Ramsey would disagree with that.
Jalen Ramsey can't fight either, and they can they can see me about it.
What they call it? The Charleston. Listen, I forgot what they call it. The Charleston choke by AJ Green.
Anthony Davis in the boxing ring. Y'all seen it. Y'all seen what's the boy named Nate Robinson getting knocked out. Most of these guys can't.
Hey, what about Frank Gore?
Frank Gore, prime athletes. They can't fight. They run the ball. They're strong. They could choke the hell out of you because they're strong as hell. Most of them can't fight. So a lot of it is just you're just creating these environments to where someone's gonna break a hand because they can't fight. They don't know how to throw punches. Someone's gonna get hurt because the NFL wants to showcase. You already got the preseason game. I don't need the joint practice Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, day off, and the Saturday preseason game. That's super vanilla.
Well, it's crazy too,
and that's only it's just ridiculous.
This game is on Monday night, so that's even crazier.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like we're already gonna play. I don't need the joint practice.
Yeah.
I get that you guys want to showcase the league. I'm gonna watch, but I don't want somebody to be rogue, some 7th round or undrafted defensive end trying to make a name for himself, and he just rolls into Aaron Rodgers. Now, what happens? Who do you blame? Who do you look around to? Like, oh, we don't know what happened. You know what the fuck happened. You had this unnecessary joint practice because you want the behind-the-scenes hard knock footage versus the on-the-field September through February footage. That's what we care about. We'll talk about football all year. I don't need anything extra. Give me the preseason games. Give me the rookies. I'm good to go. Give me the one-on-one drill highlight passes. Stop with the joint practices because as soon as you lose Christian McCaffrey or you lose one of these rookie quarterbacks because he hits his head on the helmet because some guys blitz him through too hard where his own team would have known to pull up, this random linebacker from the Raiders might not know to pull up. Now CJ Stroud's got a broken hand, can't play for 6 weeks. So that's all I'm saying. Cut the cap. It's not important. Get rid of joint practice.
And that's what you call getting it off your chest. So now, time for more previews. You know, we've hit up the whole NFC for you all. You know, NFC East through West. Now we're going to go the opposite direction, AFC West through East. So tonight, we're going to talk about the Chiefs' Kingdom, also known as the AFC West, because I can't even tell you the last time the Chiefs lost a division game. You know, it's been a while, you know, but they might not lose one this year, you know, from where I'm sitting. I think they will lose one, but I'm just saying.
You got to lose one.
Got to lose one. It's like the Ravens right now. The Ravens are 24 a game preseason winning streak or something like that.
Right. They took a knee. I saw another preseason game where it was like 4th and 11, and the other team went for it at their own 20 just to run the play, and then the other team got the ball back and kicked the field goal. So it's like, I don't think anybody. I think they just want to see if this crazy ass play works.
All right, man. So Chiefs. I think we both agree that the Chiefs are going to win the division.
I would, like I said, I would want to have a little bit more variety in the conversation around the Chiefs, but like I said, they just simply do the simple stuff better, and they do it deliberately. Some teams, it seems like they're forcing themselves to do the simple stuff, like the Chargers. The Chargers, we'll talk about it. You know, it'll be 3rd and 4th and 2, and they line up in 5 wide almost because they're on TV all the time. People love the Chargers. People love Justin Herbert. Very humble guy. I like him. They're always on TV. But 3rd and 2 is like, man, just line up an I formation, and just your hogs versus their hogs. Get this 6 feet and and get your first down. So I think the Chiefs they just happen to do that. All right, it's 3rd and 7. All right, Kelsey, run a 7-yard route. Let's not try to trick them. Like when Josh Allen in the playoffs last year against Miami, when it was like 3rd and 2, and they were throwing like 40-yard bombs. That's an interception. So it's like they keep it simple. I know the wide receivers aren't the names we know, but most wide receivers kind of come out of nowhere based on their camaraderie with the quarterback. Because most of them, a lot of them run great routes. Your top wide receivers run great routes, everyone raves about your third or fourth wide receiver's ability to run routes. These guys have been trained in that route running, and they have route running specialists on teams. So I think Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney, when healthy, they'll get open. Kelsey will get open. They run a lot of 2 and 3 tight end sets. Those guys get open.
Yeah, you remember I told you I like Richie James. Came over from the Giants. That's going to be another weapon that a lot of people are not familiar with. That Patrick Mahomes is going to probably make a household name.
And he said it last week, or not last, but last season at the beginning before the first game. He's like, listen, it's going to be wide receiver by committee. He's like, I know Tyreek's gone. He's a top talent. He's like, he's a guy. Apologize to the fantasy owners, but it's going to be a different guy every week. And I have a coworker. He had Travis Kelce one game. He said it was a Monday night game. The game comes on late, so old head like myself. He's like, so I went to sleep early. I woke up in the morning. He said he saw something that said 4 touchdowns. He was like, oh, I'm good. So he got up and it said 4 touchdowns. We had like 27 total yards receiving. And he still lost it. He's like, I thought, no, he had a parlay. I think he had a parlay for like 65 yards. So when he saw he saw 4 touchdowns. He was like, oh, he's definitely
money in the bank.
He's definitely this parlay for my 65 yards. He was like, man, he had like 27 yards receiving. But like I said, like if you even look at those kind of drives where to get 4 touchdowns is like, I'm looking for anybody and be in the red zone, I'm getting it to Kelsey. But then you have a game like Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney both scored touchdowns in the Super Bowl. Obviously, Kelsey scored the first one. So like I said, I think the marriage between coach, quarterback, and scheme, and then coach, quarterback, scheme, and skill players, I think that buffet of camaraderie is what keeps them ahead of
what I think I'm interested in, behind the chains, if you will. There was all this big debate about, is the enemy calling the plays? Is Andy Reid calling the plays? What's going on here? Even though it's been pointed out that the enemy was the one that pointed out Philadelphia's coverage in the Super Bowl and all that. But now that Nagy's back in place, I want to see if their offense looks a little different, like if there's some little intricate things that we could pick up on to see, like, okay, maybe the enemy did have his print on it, or does it look the exact same? So that's something that I'm interested in. But what I'm also interested in is 2 things when it comes to Kansas City. I'm interested in Chris Jones and where's his money? You know what I'm saying? Because y'all don't pay him this money, getting back to that Super Bowl is going to be that much harder. And then number 2, I'm looking at the schedule.
Mike loves the schedule. Loves being Negro Damas.
But between weeks 4 and 11, they play at the Jetropolitans, at Minnesota, Denver, the Chargers at Denver, Miami, bye week, Philly. And guess what, Kansas City? You cannot run. You're going to play Philadelphia on a taken care of football field. So the truth is going to come out.
So you said 4 through 11.
Yeah.
So we got them 3-0 after 3 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Detroit, Jacksonville, Chicago.
Yeah. Yep. 3-0. Yep.
So 4-0 Jets.
Yep.
5-0 Minnesota.
Yep.
6-0 Denver.
Then LA's been playing them tough the last couple of years, but I'm gonna give it to them because I would give it to Kansas City because LA can't close it out for some reason. He plays toe-to-toe with Mahomes, but they just can't close it out. But then I got them losing at Mile High. That's just going to be a scheduled loss.
So you got them 7-1 after 8 weeks. And then Miami, you got them losing to Miami?
I'm in the air, but I'm going to call it a win.
So 8-1.
And then they're going to lose to Philly.
Going to their bye week.
And they're going to lose to Philly on a real football field, not this amateur thing they played on in the Super Bowl. I'm being sarcastic, by the way, y'all.
Yeah. But they're going
to lose though. I think they're going to lose.
They got Philly at home. You got Philly coming to Arrowhead beating them?
Yeah.
And prime time?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just think when you lose the Super Bowl, you have that extra.
You come back with that extra.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. You know who won that Arrowhead last year?
Cincinnati.
Buffalo.
Oh, Buffalo won at Arrowhead?
Buffalo won at Arrowhead last year. But if it was
know,
in the playoffs, you wasn't going to pick it.
I like Buffalo a lot, man. I like that they're good. I like that they're back good. I think people kind of like go over the top with like I like that Miami is I like that people are picking Miami. I like that people are picking teams like the Chargers. I like because like I said, we'll talk about college football here in the next couple of episodes.
You know who Buffalo
And it's
is?
like you're only picking like 6 teams. Like you went on a limb and you're very eloquent 2-5 yesterday, and you picked a lot of upsets. You got like Wisconsin winning some games. You got like guys going
I got
10
Oregon
and 2.
State beating Washington.
You got South Alabama getting a potential,
New Year's Six, maybe.
New Year's Six bowl. So like you're going on a limb, but like I don't know how many people are on that limb with you. But in professional football, I think people might like the Raiders. I think people like the Chargers. I think people like Buffalo. I think people like the Jets. So it sets the plate for the whole worst the first part that we like. And that's why it's hard to keep picking Kansas City, because it's like at some point someone else has to go 12-5 and they got to go 11-6. It just you would think that has to happen, considering that.
And it could be this year with that schedule.
The validation and the justification we all use as prognosticators of their success is they have Reed, Mahomes, Kelsey culture. A hamstring here or just an off day. Tip balls, a windy day. You can't throw the ball 40 times. You got to run it 25 times. A rainy day where you just can't run it, or just a day where like somebody else can't hold on to the ball. Right. You got some random a punt returner just fumbles the ball or bobbles, so like you're down 10-0 early in the game to the Chargers, or a game like Philly or something like that, or like even like New England, just for no reason, no fault of your own, just because the ball just bounces one way or the other. So you want to just not keep picking Kansas City every year, but I'm not gonna be one of these people who is just like, oh, this is definitely the year because of a flaw that Kansas City has. It's just just the nature.
Well, the problem is
something has to be different, because
the problem is that Buffalo is Toronto running into that one dude that they just can't get over the hump with. You got Giannis over in Cincinnati just biding time so he can take over. And then you got Embiid.
And just leapfrogs Toronto.
Yeah.
He gets into the Super Bowl. I feel you.
And then you got Embiid over in LA, who like we're looking at Justin Herbert like, I see the talent, I see the vision, I see why you throw it 6,000 times in a season, but can you get that one first down after having a 28-point lead or 27-point lead in the first half? Can you just get that one first down to let Jacksonville know like you got a little bit of momentum, but it stops here? And that's what I'm waiting on the Chargers to do. But every time I turn around and I look at the Chargers, they're hurt. Keenan Allen, I feel like misses 5 games every year. They played Mike Williams in a game that didn't matter because their seed was already locked last year. So he got injured, which took away a weapon in that playoff game. Then you got Austin Eckler, who's a touchdown machine. He catches them, he runs them, and they just won't give him the ball because you got to give all the glory.
Throw him the ball.
They'll throw him the ball, but they won't just give him the ball. And now
it's like 60 passes a year.
And now they bring Kellen Moore in, from Dallas as the offensive coordinator, and I just don't know if that's an upgrade over what they had before, because like Kellen Moore has all this like what's the word?
Cooper Rush got Kellen Moore hired.
Well, last year when we were talking about hot seats and coaching vacancies, I said something along the lines of like, yo, I really like Mike Kafka. And you were like, yo, what the hell Mike Kafka did? You know what I mean? So when I look at Kellen Moore, I'm like, yeah, you were in Dallas, but I feel like Dallas was just talented and you benefited because you were the person on the sideline.
Cooper Rush got Kellen Moore hired because of the stretch when he played when Dak was out. Because Dak didn't play great. overall at the end of the year, I think Dallas had like the number 4 ranked offense. But you can use any kind of metric, like we talk about this, in military terms with EPR bullets. I remember writing bullets, and they would use the 12-hour fix rate when that was good. They would use that number. And then they would use the fully mission capable rate of our 32 airplanes we had, is like they would use that. But something else would be bad, but it was like, oh, if our home station fixed rate was bad, our on the road fixed rate was good. So we would use that number to support the
Right.
bullet.
Right.
So I think when it comes to the offense, it's like, okay, was the offense good, or did you score a lot of points and throw it a lot? And then did they value yards and points over efficiency? Like, is there an
Right.
efficiency rating, or was it just, oh, Dallas had 5,000 yards passing and 35, 40 touchdowns? Is that why they were, so it just depends on what you use to determine, because we keep talking about Dak's interceptions. So is it, or is interceptions, because they happen on offense too. So was Kellen Moore calling too many plays? Was he throwing 45 passes a game? Was that too often? Should he cut it down to 35 passes? And with Justin Herbert already throwing the ball a lot, and then Kellen Moore coming off of an offense coordinator season where his starting quarterback threw the most interceptions in the league,
While
it's like,
missing 5 games.
while missing 5 games, it's like, so is Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert's arm is probably way more impressive as far as NFL. Like, to me, as a regular human, you could throw the ball 60 yards in a tight spiral. I'm impressed because I can't do that. But in an NFL game, if you're looking at the nuances between 61 yards and 67 yards, if you got a guy that's throwing the ball 65, 66 yards down the field, that's substantially better. But I think what Dak does throwing the ball is, I think he's a good quarterback. You look at Justin Herbert flinging that ball with his 6'5" wide receivers out there. You're not going to call a lot of plays for Austin Eckler. And on top of that, Austin Eckler, like, you tell they didn't care about him. They only gave him like a $2 million bump in
Right.
his pay. So I could just see them kind of lulling themselves back into this thing where Justin Herbert's throwing 45 to 50 passes a game.
Well, you know what I got to do, right?
You got to be 2-5.
I got to look at the schedule. So look at those last 3 games for the Chargers.
You see what I got? I'm pulling it up right now. Stand by.
Week 16 through 18, and then I'm going to go back to the front of the schedule. But I just want to focus on those last 3, because if there's playoff spots and seeding on the line, those are some real dicey games to close out your season with.
16, got Buffalo, Denver, Kansas City.
Buffalo at Denver, Kansas City.
You can go back to 14 because you have division, Buffalo, division. So if you're 6 division games, you're playing 4 of them in the last 6 weeks of the season.
Yeah, and then on top of that, I go back.
That's one of the tiebreakers.
And then on top of that, I go back to weeks 4 and 5, where they got Dallas and Kansas City back to back. You know what I mean? And then I go to weeks 9 and 10, where they got the Jetropolitans and Detroit back to back. So their schedule has a lot of like landmines in it. You know what I mean?
Yo, they got the Raiders week 4, so that's your first division game. They got to bye. Then Dallas, Kansas City. How many primetime games? Because I think a lot of those teams, what happens is they want them in primetime games and they want them early. Because the first few weeks they'll give you whatever. They'll give you Jacksonville versus Atlanta in the beginning of the season on a primetime game because they know we're gonna watch no matter what. But you got primetime game against Dallas. Then you got Kansas City the following week. Then you got a primetime game against Chicago. Then you got a primetime game against the Jets. Go down a couple more weeks, week 12. You got another primetime game against Baltimore. Another one against the Raiders. And another one against Buffalo. So they got like 7 primetime games. Plus their last game of the season is Kansas City, which is probably going to be.
So this is my problem with them because, like, the 2-5 in me wanted to sit down and be like, hey, let's be bold with it. Just pick the Chargers. But then as I looked at it, it's not so much who they play, because like we always say, they're in the same division, so they play the same teams. But it's about the order and how the games line up. Like that has to be factored in. So like when you're looking at Dallas and Kansas City that way, does Chicago sneak up on them? You know what I mean? I mean, obviously, I'm gonna say no. Like they'll probably beat Chicago, but I'm just saying those are the type of games that in a normal
You have
year,
two intense weeks back to back. Maybe go
right?
1-1. Maybe go 0-2. If you go 0-2, I think you'll beat Chicago because you won't slip. But
Right,
if
you're
you
going
go
to be
2-0,
focused. Yeah,
but if you go 2-0, you'll slip up to Chicago.
and that's what I'm saying. Like, so the way that their schedule sets up, there's a lot of trap in there. You know, like even the Raiders could. I mean, the Raiders are a division opponent, but the Raiders could sneak up on them right before they play Buffalo. You know,
If
because
Jimmy Garoppolo and Hunter Renfro can keep connecting on 3rd and 6 and keep drives going, and they can bring Jacobs into the fold, yeah, I can see that happening.
but see, and that's where I think the Baltimore game is important. You know, for the
Late in week
Chargers.
12.
Yeah, I think that game is important because I think of those two teams as kind of on the same level. So when you start getting into tiebreakers, now remember last season, they were fighting over the 5 and 6 seed. You know, those two teams, and that's why LA didn't need to play Mike Williams against Denver because Baltimore had lost already, and they locked themselves into the 5. So like these weren't teams that were the 3rd and 4th seeds and they won their division and was secure or whatever. Like, so I think that game is going to be very important. You know, and also back to my point about injuries, Keenan Allen hasn't played a full season since 2019. So, you know, so everybody tells me how talented LA is, and they are, but it doesn't matter if they're not playing.
Yeah, you can't be talented in a sweatsuit.
Yeah, it's like, yo, like I call Anthony Davis, right? All infirmary team. You know what I mean? So, like,
Yeah, we're gonna stop the Anthony Davis slander because he's played more games than a lot of these superstars over the last few years. I saw that
well,
one in
well,
sports.
well, well, well,
He's not playing. He not
well,
playing
well,
April. That's
well, Keenan Allen is going to be in the Kawhi wing here shortly. How about that? You know, so
I mean,
yeah,
they're in the same city.
yeah, so you got the Chargers there. You know what I mean? They did pick up Eddie Kendricks. You know, we talked about Minnesota losing him, so he's a good veteran presence to put in the locker room. Because I've noticed, you know, Khalil Mack is he should be talked of the way that we speak of Aaron Donald, but he kind of has that I play when I want to mentality. Like he just disappears at times, it seems, and it's not because the other team schemed him out. Like it just looks like he just doesn't always give that type of effort. You know, so
I think he gets a lot of chips, he gets a lot of double teams. I think they play him out in space a lot because of his athleticism. I seen it against Atlanta when he came out and ripped the ball out of Drake London's hand. What I think is that these guys, they like I said, I play Madden. You know, you line up against Madden, and then underneath the feet of these players, they have like little emblems and icons, and it's like stars and like all these other little things. So I was playing a guy who was playing with the Chargers the other day, and it was Bosa, Mack, Derwin James. I think one of the linebackers and somebody else all had like these little stars under their feet. And as I'm playing, I'm like, why aren't these guys better in real life? And
well,
I've
that's
seen a
what I was
few
just about
teams
to
like
bring
that.
up.
Baltimore
Yeah,
is the same way. It's like, but you like you said, it's injuries.
they
Bosa
were.
misses a lot of time. Mack ends up getting double teamed, and that I'm not sure. Derwin James misses time.
Well, especially when Staley comes in with the defensive reputation. You know, that team should not be 28th against the run. You know, this team should not be top 10 in points allowed and not in the positive way, like giving up the least points, giving up the most points.
I love when people
You,
say that. Like, is it bottom? Are we bottom 10?
I
Is
know.
it like
I
it's like
confuse myself every time
if
I
it,
say it.
I look at it like this? Hey, CBS Sports, NFL.com, ESPN. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna rank stats from positive to negative. So if you give up the most points, you are 32 in points.
All
You're
right.
not top 10 in most points given up.
So
Like
they were number 22 in points given
there we
up.
go. So
You
like
know what
that's
I
just the
mean?
easiest way to figure it
You
out
know,
because it's like top 2 in points or top 10 in points. So like, oh, nah.
and you would
They're not
think
the 2001 Ravens. They are the 2000 every single year Falcons.
And
But
you would
it's
think,
kind of
and
just
you would
bleeding
think that
points.
Herbert would have more than 25 touchdowns. You know, with as
I
much as
heard
he
that stat a
throws it.
couple of weeks ago too. I was listening to the Eye Couple. Shout out Chris Broussard and Rob
You
Parker.
would think that he thrown for 5,000 yards as much as he throws. He didn't even
Yeah,
throw for 40. He didn't even
I
throw for
thought he had
4,800.
more than 25 touchdowns. When I heard that, I
No.
was like, because I
Yeah,
watched a
you
lot
was
of
like
that.
somebody misspoke, huh?
I was because I think it was on First Things First because it was Broussard and because they were talking about his
Nick Wright.
contract. Nick Wright. So they were talking about
Yeah.
his contract, and then Nick Wright loves to do these blind reveals, and he was like, "Who are these three quarterbacks?" And then Kevin Wiles was like, "Listen, I already know. I saw the notes earlier," and he's like, "It's all Justin Herbert." But like the third one, when he said it was like 25 touchdowns, maybe 11 picks or 7 picks or somewhere around that in that range, I was like, only 25 touchdowns. I think Marcus Mariota had like 20, 22, and I thought that was like underperforming. So it's just a weird dynamic with Staley, and like I said, we'll get into that the hot seat stuff. But the team is too talented for us being most of the pundits and people who talk about who prognosticate who's going to win a division to just outright be picking Kansas City. It shouldn't be that clear cut that you and I are like, I got Kansas City. And if we put on anything outside of LA, most people will say the same thing. And if they say it's not Kansas City, they don't say it's not Kansas City because we think the Chargers are going to be better. We say like they can't just keep winning.
It's
Like
just
Patrick
time.
Mahomes' record, yeah, Patrick
Like
Mahomes' record
Mahomes
against
been too
the AFC
healthy.
West is 27-3. He's played 30 games and he's won 27 times against the AFC West in his career. So it's like
The SEC, they are not. And so like looking at Denver, you know what I mean? Like Denver, all I gotta say about Denver is if they want us to believe, they better start 2-0. They better not lose either one of those opening games if they want us to believe and take them seriously. Because we talk about it. If they averaged like 19 points or something, whatever it was, they would have been 11-6 or 12-5 last year. They would have been in the
it was
playoffs.
something. Yeah, that Nathaniel Hackett still have his job, and Sean Payton would still be on Fox just saying random stuff.
So forget how you feel about Sean Payton one way or the other. I feel like he's a little overrated. Like I think he is a good coach, but I feel like he's a little overrated. But with that being said,
a little.
But
that's like saying the Statue of Liberty is kind of small.
But with that being said, I feel like Denver just needed somebody other than Hackett in there, some kind of competence, and they'll be better just off of that alone. It didn't even have to be somebody like Sean Payton. But with that being said, they better win these first two games against the Raiders and the Commanders, like if they want us to take them seriously. And then weeks 5 through 11, Jets at Arrowhead, Green Bay, home for Kansas City, bye at Buffalo, Minnesota. Like
AFC West has a tough schedule. They are playing a tough schedule. They're playing the NFC North, and then they're playing, looks like, the AFC East.
Yeah, so they got to go 4-2 in that stretch.
That's a tough 8 games.
Yeah, they got to go 4-2 right there, and then they got to win those opening games. So you're already starting with a 6-2 buffer. You know what I mean? Like, so
you saying they got to start 6-2? They got to start 4-2?
No, I'm saying just combining the games that I just mentioned. Like they got to go 4-2 in that stretch. Like to make noise. So if they can get out of that, if they could get, hold on. If they could go 4-2 in that stretch, beat Washington and Las Vegas. I keep wanting to say Oakland. That's why I keep pausing. That gets you a 6-2 range to where the rest, and they got Chicago in there. You know what I mean? Where we talked about this. I asked if Chicago could beat them. I think Chicago can beat them, but we both picked Denver to beat them. So 7-2. Just before you include any other game on their schedule. Now they got to play the Chargers twice. Can they beat the Chargers once?
I don't know if I can see them getting the 7 wins. Atlanta's defense is awful.
That's what I'm saying. But their defense is good enough to do it. But what is their offense going to look like? Because Latavius Murray is gone. Javonte Williams is supposed to be back, hopefully, to start the season for the running backs. They got Marvin Mims out of Oklahoma, who I love, ran that 4.38. But I also saw John Ross run really fast.
4.22. They ran right out of the league.
Yeah, so we got it. So we got to get there. But here's one for you. You ready for this one?
I'm
So the
listening.
other night we were talking offline, and I said something along the lines of, I think Russell Wilson is more not washed than he is washed, but he's definitely headed for the decline. Or
Yeah,
As Max Kellerman would say, he's headed for the cliff.
off the
You
cliff.
know,
Yeah.
yeah. But this is what I pulled up, and this is from. Let me give him his credit. I know his last name is Schwab from Yahoo. I can't find his first name in my notes, but I'll get back to it later. But among 384 quarterbacks with at least 300 passing attempts in a season since 2012, so this is going back to 2012, Russell Wilson's passing success rate last season ranked 374th out of that 384 sample.
What is passing success rate? Like hitting the wide receiver's hands,
It's it's
completions,
it's
yards.
yes,
Like
it's passes that you throw that should be completed or in a window of completion.
I hate that stat. You know, I hate analytics.
I know, but it
Like, I mean, I'm pretty. But it does match what we saw on those games when we
right,
saw them
right.
in prime time. It does match that. I just, I just think that like just looking at his normal completion percentage and yards per game is enough. Like, I
That's
don't
good
know
enough.
why. That's good enough to say like, oh, this dude didn't throw the ball well.
We don't need the Daryl Morey this thing,
Yeah, I don't.
because
Yeah,
you
I
know
don't need
Daryl
the.
Morey's a liar anyway.
Yeah,
You know,
I don't need the Harvard mathematical equations to be like, oh yeah, Zach Wilson missed a lot of easy passes. Like I don't need
all
it to
right,
sound better than it is.
all right. Well, here's a more traditional question for you.
I got it.
What was Denver's points per game last year that they scored?
If I had to guess, I'm gonna go like 17-7.
16.9.
That's pretty close.
You know what I
That
mean?
was
And
pretty close. That's pretty close.
so that's what I'm saying. They were that close to the playoffs. So it's not that far fetched to me to think that they could finish ahead of the Chargers.
But I think the Sean Payton addition to Denver puts I don't want to say a pressure on.
Oh, it definitely does. It definitely does.
But there's going to be a stretch to where okay, Vegas and they're home for Vegas. Vegas runs the ball well. They
If they got their
play
running back,
if they have their running back, which somebody got to smooth that over.
you know, there's
They
one
run the
running
ball
back that's
well.
holding the line. He's holding it down for everybody else.
Their front seven is pretty solid. Their two ends between Chandler Jones and Max Crosby get to the quarterback. Russell Wilson has not looked comfortable wearing three in that blue and orange since last year. So a couple of drives to where you get to them, drive ins, pressure builds in game one. You're home. They were booing those fans. Those fans were booing last year. Sean Payton expectations $20 million. I think it's just a lot of extenuating circumstances that could allow people not to really just look at the game as a game. Like, listen, okay, that's one drive. I think one drive or one bad game can be exacerbated throughout the entire week of if they happen to start out 0-2, just think about that. They lose to Vegas, the Raiders and the Commanders week 1 and 2. I'm not sure what the Commanders are going to look like, but I know the defensive front is stout. So it's like with Allen and what's the guy on
Chase
the
Young,
edge, Chase Young. We know their
you
secondary
know,
isn't
Deron Payne.
Deron Payne. So though that's a difference. Chris Jones made a difference in the. If Chris Jones would have got the sack on Joe Burrow in the AFC Championship game the year that Cincinnati won at Arrowhead, that changed the whole complex of the game because he got through. He just couldn't bring him to the ground. So having a guy who's able to make that play, because you saw it with Aaron Donald in the Super Bowl when he got through, because P. Ryan was open for Burrow and Jamar Chase was open deep. But if Aaron Donald doesn't get through, Burrow sees Jamar Chase because I know he's looking for him, and
Right.
he was wide open. But having someone who can make that play makes all the difference. So you have a
And
team
could you
like
imagine Justin
Washington.
Herbert or Josh Allen if Burrow would have won that Super Bowl?
All they with them, they'd have been like, "Yo, I need to get 275 million because Joe Burrow's getting 285." So they were going to bump it up because Joe Burrow was going to ask for a big number. So I like Denver. I think it's good. I think it's good for TV because they play out west. I think that second time slot is going to be good because, like I said, sometimes you lose me in football if the Falcons lose poorly early on. Like I might tune out football. I'm not going to front. But with Denver, I'm excited. I'm a big fan of Russ. He's from Virginia. Shout out VA 757-804, all that. I'm not a big fan of Sean Payton. I think he's, I feel like a lot of coaches are kind of, sitting on the back of players with, big wings. I think he kind of rolled the wings of dynamic players like Drew Brees and Deuce McAllister and Reggie Bush.
Colston.
Marcus Colston. Because, he had a bunch of years where they should have done better, and they went 5-11 a couple years in a row. With Drew Brees, Hall of Fame quarterback, throwing the ball at 90,000 yards.
Well, just like Rob Parker said, and just like you told me, I mean, he's Mike McCarthy with a better haircut and
more personality.
He's
literally a slim, more personable. And he's from the Bill Parcells tree, so
the asshole tree.
It gives him this cachet. But Bill Belichick's an asshole, but his cachet doesn't extend because I don't know if coaches really rock with Belichick as much as the players do. When you hear Belichick talking in the offseason, I think he really loves football. I think just during the year when you're around all these people, he's just about his business. So I think it comes off as abrasive and harsh. And I think Parcells is one of those big tuna. He had the nickname, big personality, abrasive on the sideline, personable in the interview. I think that's the same thing Sean Payton kind of took from that. Matt Patricia and Josh McDaniels, they try to take that whole
tough guy
that tough guy demonstrative personality from Bill Belichick and put it on their teams. Like, no, dog, you suck. You're not a good coach. Like, You're bad at coaching football. You can't do that. But Sean Payton was a good football coach. I don't think he's $20 million good.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's gonna be the thing. And I guess we're all obviously picking the Raiders to finish last.
Yeah. Better record this season. Raiders or Bears? Because, in case you didn't notice, I'm looking at the schedule. You know what I'm saying? So at Denver, at Buffalo, Pittsburgh, at LA, and then weeks 11 through 16 at Miami, Kansas City, bye week, Minnesota, Chargers, at Arrowhead. Somebody don't like the Raiders. Like whatever Al Davis did, the Raiders still getting punished for that.
I mean, they went 6-11 last year.
Yeah, but that was with the league leading rusher who is holding out right now.
Yeah, but you can only hold out till week 11.
But I do like some things so the problem with the Raiders is that if you're relying on a quarterback like Jimmy G, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but if you're relying on a quarterback like Jimmy G, you got to have a Von Miller on your defense and all that kind of stuff. So they got Max Crosby, like you mentioned. They got Chandler Jones, but then there's like a whole lot of nothing after that. I like this rookie that they picked up, but he is a rookie. Jacorian Bennett, from Maryland. That's not why I like him. Just saying that's where he went to school. But
Maryland had the fastest cornerbacks at the combine last year.
That's what I'm saying. They got one of them. So so there you go.
Sometimes speed can make up for technique.
Yeah. So he didn't allow a touchdown in college last year. And here's another one of those stats that Mr. Logical doesn't like.
Lay it on me.
He allowed a 47.5 passer rating against his coverage.
That's a good stat. Okay. I like that stat. That actually shows like, hey, they threw the ball over here this many times, but if it was like, oh, this many quality passes were deflected, I don't care about that.
But also, if you're going to have a quarterback,
how many passes did dude catch over here. No touchdowns, and every time they threw him here, the passer rating was low. Okay, that means he's doing his job.
If you're
Yeah,
gonna have a quarterback like Jimmy Garoppolo or Jimmy Gabarjalo, as I used to call him, if you're gonna have a quarterback like that, you also should have a Darren Waller, maybe.
trade him because he didn't invite him to the wedding.
But we're just at this point of like, if you're gonna bring so this is the thing with the NFL team, right? Like quarterbacks are different. They bring different skills, they have different weaknesses, so on and so forth. Like when you bring in Jimmy G, you can't give him whatever they got at receiver besides Devontae Adams and act like Aaron Rodgers just walked through the door.
First of all, I think the Jimmy G slander is getting a little outrageous because
it is what it is.
Sanford's like Kyle Shanahan's record without Jimmy G is way below 500.
It is
it's not even close. So the same wide receivers that Jimmy Garoppolo had, and the same tight end, and the same running backs, and the same offensive genius scheme that Jimmy Garoppolo had, and then you put in CJ Beathard and Nick Mullins and Trey Lance and Brock Purdy, all these other guys, and their record is still below 500. And with Jimmy G,
it ain't because of Brock Purdy.
Well, if it ain't because of Brock Purdy or whoever else, the record below 500 isn't because of Jimmy Garoppolo, because it isn't below 500.
All I'm saying is, if you bringing me Mahomes, you bringing me Herbert, I gotta come better than Garoppolo. That's all I'm saying.
If you're a team, if the Broncos had Jimmy Garoppolo last year, they would have gone 11-6. Even with him running at the back of the end zone in the game against the Broncos.
There's also his injury
Jimmy Garoppolo. That's all on him. But as far as like when he's on the field, he like quarterback wins. Quarterback wins. He missed one throw. Everything else was normal. He missed one throw.
That sounded so Skip Bayless right there.
Yeah. He missed one throw. Yes, and it happens to everybody. But Mahomes threw a late interception. You just got to get an opportunity to come back from that. Kyle Shanahan coached in the Super Bowl that had the greatest collapse in the history of the world. It was like the Ming Dynasty and then the Falcons Patriots Super Bowl. Those are the two greatest collapses in world history.
Well, at least he wasn't the head coach.
Either way, he was calling the plays. He should have been like, you know what? The last time I was in this position, I was up a possession in the Super Bowl that my team offensively was losing their tread. I didn't go to running the ball. And it cost me a Super Bowl. And it cost Matt Ryan possibly a trip to the Hall of Fame. Let's keep it a buck.
That's deep.
But instead of him being like, oh, let me just run it, he then relies on Jimmy G, a dude he was trying to replace for the entire time he has been there. Every single time he got injured, he was ready to replace Jimmy G. But what was happening? He was putting these other guys in the game, and they couldn't win games. So Jimmy G is not the problem. I think Josh McDaniels and his I am Belichick Jr. kind of attitude may cause a problem.
No, I think
but maybe they have a relationship from Massachusetts that made it to Nevada. Then I think they're good to go.
I think that Jimmy G has a lot of. I think Jimmy G has a lot of Alex Smith in him from the standpoint of, yes, he will win you games. You'll go into the playoffs with a nice record, 11 wins, 12 wins. But there's always going to come a game or a moment that you realize that you brought a knife to a gunfight.
But if you think about that's not, but I don't know if that's a byproduct of that individual player or who you come up against. Because we talked about this when we talked about our NFC West preview. If Jaquiski Tartt catches that interception, then San Francisco's going up 10. Like they're going back the other way with the ball late in the fourth quarter because Matthew Stafford inexplicably threw up a Hail Mary in the middle of the fourth quarter. So that would have given Jimmy G a win. Mm-hmm. If you think about, like I said, if you think about the other guys that have been there, Alex Smith, having a guy play like Alex Smith before Patrick Mahomes started, they were in the playoffs. Patrick Mahomes started the last week of the season because Kansas City already clinched with Alex Smith at QB. They had some talent. They had Tyreek Hill, they had Travis Kelsey, but it wasn't like they were like world beaters. But
Mm-hmm.
Alex Smith got them into the playoffs. There's nothing wrong with having a quarterback that gets you into scoring position, gets you into the right play every single play. That's what you want. It's great to have a guy like Josh Allen with a cannon. It's great to have a guy like Justin Herbert who can throw the ball over the place. It's great to have a guy like Jalen Hurts that can run and is super dynamic. It's great to have this super athletic guy like Lamar Jackson. But ultimately, all you really need is a quarterback that's going to get you into scoring position 4 to 5 times per game. 2 or 3 touchdowns, a couple of field goals. Gets you anywhere between 21 and 26 points. If you can get me there, we should win 9 and 10 of our
Well,
games. 10 and 7 gets you in the playoffs in most
the
divisions.
problem is the Raiders going to be giving up more than that, and if Jimmy Garoppolo, does continue the injury thing, you know who them backups are.
Is it not Peterman? He's gone, right?
No, he's in Chicago.
Trey Lance right up the street. They can call.
Yeah, so the backups are Brian Hoyer.
Not bad. That's
You know
not.
what I'm
That's a
saying?
New England backup. That's a guy that can get you 2 or 3 games.
Yeah, but he's like our age now. And then Aiden O'Connell, the rookie out of Purdue. So the Raiders, I think the Raiders are just a team that's just not, they're just not built to compete right now. You know what I mean? Irregardless of how I feel about Jimmy G, they're not built to compete right now. They're still another 2 or 3 years away and probably another, ready? Head coach away. So it's that time of year, me and Mr. Rutley get up in here and we start talking about coaches on the hot seat because, there's always some rumbling, especially,
Always a coach in a hot seat. It's
there's
always
always,
some of them are fall guys and some of them got to go.
yeah. So speaking of which, let's
You
go
want to go
off
east or
kilter.
west?
Well, before we do anything, I just want to go off kilter for a second. What does it take for Art Smith to get fired this year?
In Atlanta,
Yeah.
they got to go like 3 and 14.
Because
Anything close to mediocre. Because right now his record is 14-20. It's a 41% win percentage. If he's anywhere near there, but Desmond Ritter looks good, a couple of rookies look good, a couple of free agent signings that are going to be here for a couple of years look good. Like a guy like, well, Holland signed like a 1 year deal, but like Jesse Bates signed a long term deal. Okuda if he comes back. So like some of the people that we made moves for look good, and we just happen to go 7-10, and the Saints go on a tear and like they really pull it together, and the Saints go 12-5 and lose both games to the Saints. Like a couple of those situations where I think he's safe. If he goes 7-10, he's safe. But if he goes like 3-14, people are gonna be calling for his head. But Arthur Blank doesn't fire coaches.
right.
It has to like the bottom has to fall out. But I'd put him on the hot seat simply because this is a winnable division. And you've had 2 years to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And me as a fan looking at, I know exactly what doesn't work. I've seen it. I've seen because I watched all their games last year and I saw like this does not work. I do not recall realistically a drive where they went 5 wide, hurry up, 4 wide with a running back in the backfield, 2 minute. Like I didn't see a single formation where the wide receivers are spread out and the quarterback was making these reads. It just was a lot of very conservative, very tight,
Well,
very
I think part of
predictable.
that was who they had at quarterback.
But even with that, even if I only want you to throw the check down to the running back, spread them out, and throw the check down. You can still throw it. You can still throw the check down. The problem was they would get tight, and then everyone on the defense would get tight.
Yeah.
They ran that play action like I talked about this before. Drake London and Kyle Pitts were getting blasted. Zacchaeus would run like this little, he'd go on motion, and then he'd do like this loop back to Mariota's strong side. So like it was like an RPO where he can hit him in the flat, or he can hit Drake London coming on the slant this side. And if they ran that same action from the other side, Kyle Pitts would come off. The free safeties and strong safeties started coming in the box and started just laying the wood on our rookie wide receiver and our number 4 overall pick tight end who's super dynamic. It's like, dog, that's not working. So, but like I said, that's just my personal, because I viewed it, but I remember watching, like, I need you, like, even Tom Brady at like 67 years old was out there going 5 wide in the 2-minute drill. It just was like, it just didn't seem as if the player, it didn't seem as if the quarterback on the field and the coach on the sideline were in concert and able to flip the switch from the conventional game plan to a contingency plan. Justin Herbert can do it. Joe Burrow can do it. Lamar Jackson can do it. Josh Allen can do it. Jalen Hurts can do it. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes can do it. There's certain quarterbacks that just the coach, obviously Tom Brady can do it. Aaron Rodgers, when he after he earned the freedom through Matt LaFleur, he could do it to where it was like, all right, I know it's 4 minutes left in the second quarter, but we're gonna go hurry up here because I like that they're in nickel and I got a pass catching running back that I'm gonna put in the slot. You know, whatever. Like, so it just was like that relationship. And Marcus Mariota isn't that kind of quarterback, and Arthur Smith didn't have that kind of like play design. So it just was real vanilla all the time, and it would just fall apart because defensive coordinators are like, "Oh, so this is all you're gonna give me? This is the look you're gonna give me? All right, cool. Let's just crash down on your guard, who's a rookie,
Right.
and see if he can block." And it never worked.
All right. So let's start with the NFC East and work our way around. So of course, I feel like the coach of the Dallas Cowboys, no matter who it is
He's always
always
on the
on the
hot
hot
seat.
seat. Yeah, like, so I don't even know if that's even worth getting into. But if
I'm
I
gonna
guess,
say no. I'm gonna say he's on the public hot seat, but I don't think I don't think inside the building he's on the hot seat.
well, I think it just depends on the record. Because like I told you before we started previewing, like if Dallas doesn't get to the NFC Championship this year
He'll be
or
there
to the
next
Super
year.
Bowl this year, no. I'm not saying that he will or won't. I'm just saying that if it doesn't happen this particular year, I don't know when it's going to happen. So just from that standpoint of, I think it would take for Dallas to go, say, if Dallas were to go 8-9 or 9-8, then I think
McCarthy stays.
you might hear some
He's
real conversation.
You'll hear conversation from the people in our sports group. You'll hear from Fox Sports One. You'll hear from ESPN. You won't hear from Jerry Jones or Stephen Jones because I'm pretty sure it is known around the league that if you coach in Dallas, I'm pretty sure Jason Garrett has made it clear to people in circles that Jimmy Johnson, a Hall of Fame coach, got fired. Like, think about that. You have a Hall of Fame coach,
Two Super
Jimmy
Bowls.
Johnson, 2 Super Bowls. He's probably, we'll call it what? Maybe he's a handful of years older than Bill Belichick or Pete Carroll.
Mm-hmm.
So he probably could have coached through. He probably could have coached you those mid 90s teams or 95, 96, that range when they wanted
Yeah,
when Switzer won it. So he probably could have coached you up to like 2004 to 6, somewhere in that range, 12 more years,
yeah,
mid 50s. That's potentially a lot of success with a guy because Dallas always had a good team. They always get good free agents. I think Jerry Jones takes care of his players with the money. So if you would have had a competent coach that could really run the show, I think Dallas would have been good for years because they went 12-5 the last 2 years. I'll
mm-hmm.
guarantee you every team of the other 32 teams, or other 31 teams, I'd take 12-5. If Arthur Smith was 24-10 over the last 2 years, oh man, I'd have an Arthur Smith t-shirt on right now saying next year is gonna be the year. But with
Yeah.
Dallas is like, oh, because they keep thinking about the Switzer Johnson years. Like, no, that's not going to happen. But
Yeah,
they're
they'll
not going
be
to fire
fine.
McCarthy because McCarthy is, I don't know if he's viewed as
Well, I just
less combative with Jerry Jones.
Well, I just think,
So who
well,
are
I
you going to
mean,
bring
like he
in?
started their whole relationship started with him spending the night at Jerry's house. But like, I don't know,
Talking
like,
about all this film that he didn't watch.
yeah,
Yeah,
bringing
according to
in
Skip Bayless.
Brandon Cooks and Stephon Gilmore. I'm not saying that there's a certain pressure there, but I just think that anything lower than 10 wins just isn't acceptable this year. I'm not saying that he'll get fired, but I think he will come into 2024 maybe on the hot seat, more or
But that's
less.
the thing. He came into his first season on the hot seat.
Well,
I
no,
just don't think that Jerry. I
that
think
goes back to what
Jerry
you
Jones
said.
isn't
It
going
was
to fire him
public.
yet.
It was public hot seat. It wasn't for real hot seat. If they
Yeah,
win
but
less
you,
than 10
what are you going to
games this
get?
year, it's going to be for real hot seat
I'm gonna
going into
say
next
no
year.
simply because I think it'll be simply public hot seat because Jerry Jones is the show. He can talk all he wants about one.
Jerry
If he
Jones
wanted
also
to
an
win a
80.
Super Bowl, okay. If they really wanted to win a Super Bowl, realistically, like if you had a friend that told you, man, I really wish I could quit drinking. You're like, all right, man, cool. Like, so what are you doing this weekend? Oh, I'm going to Vegas with my boys. This is a bachelor party. Like, oh, you told me you wanted to go drinking. Yeah, but I gotta go to Vegas, my boy's bachelor party. If you were really concerned about winning football games, they would have hired people to take those positions. Team president, GM, director of player personnel, VP, all these other positions would have been filled by impartial football people who wouldn't have people talk about the running back contract, people who wouldn't have given Zeke that deal that early because not only was he not coming off like great performances, he was coming off like off the field BS too. So
Right.
an impartial person who didn't draft him would have been like, "Listen, this guy's under contract for X amount of years. The dirt that he's already dealing with, he's not gonna get picked up by anybody else. We have all the leverage here." Uh, Jalen Smith, the linebacker that got hurt out of Notre Dame, that was a good draft pick, but they paid him a lot early. They would have paid Dak earlier because Dak they could have had Dak under contract for 28 million after
Mm-hmm.
Kirk Cousins got his deal, but they didn't. And so after he gets injured, then you got to sign him to a $40 million deal because you didn't have a backup plan because you let your emotions dictate. Whereas somebody else would have been like, well, let's move Dak. So that kind of thing. So if you're telling me you want to be a championship contender, they need Stephen Jones and Jerry Jones got to get out of the way.
Hey,
And if they don't get out of the
you did
way,
tell me a few days ago to watch out for Kyler Murray to Dallas.
but that's the thing. You have to be. If I am put my resume, if I get hired in Dallas, like if I put my resume in, they're like, hey, you can be the new GM, Brad Fairbrother. Congratulations, let's do the press conference. I'm entertaining it simply because Kyler Murray's already goes on the extension that's less than what everybody else is getting. Dak's extension is going to be after Joe Burrow gets his, Patrick Mahomes restructures his, maybe after Joe Burrow because they're kind of like pseudo rivals at this point, and maybe they both give him team friendly deals, but that's still gonna be close to $50 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you want to go 12-5, 12-5 with Dak, Cooper Rush, Mike McCarthy, and then turn right around and then give Dak 45 or $47 million? Because he's not going to take a hometown discount because the way you jerked him around on the original,
Mm-hmm.
his original extension. So he's not going to give you any kind of leeway. So, like I said, if they really wanted to win, they would get out of the way.
So Philly's good.
Locked in.
Giants are good.
Giants are good.
Washington, I think, is good. I wouldn't say hot seat, but we
I
may
would
see
say,
a Bruce Arians type move.
nah, I think that like this is gonna sound like apathetic and just kind of like rude, but I think his cancer survival bought him a full season because you can't have a man survive cancer and then fire him from his job.
Oh, yes, you can when you're the new owner that didn't hire him or
That's what
all
I'm
that in the
saying.
first place. Yes,
That's
you
why I said
can.
saved. That's why I said saved him, like with the previous regime.
Uh-huh.
This new one has Eric Bieniemy, who has
Locked and
3 Super
loaded.
Bowl appearances
Coach and
and 5
waiting.
AFC champion, coach and waiting. The Kirby Smart, Will Muschamp, Nick Saban situation. So either you get rid of Rivera because we're all projecting him to not do well. You got a young
Yeah, I
quarterback.
think you just move him upstairs. If he really has the effect on culture that people say that he has.
I don't know if
You
that Bruce Arians thing, the Bruce Arians, Brad Stevens, that kind of in-house move. I don't know how sustainable that is. I think that might be more of a money thing. Like, hey, we are kind of in deep with you with this contract, so we'll give you some other titles so we can keep paying you.
yeah. Yeah.
But I think I got him on. But so far, I got him on the hot seat. So I got
Yeah,
Ron Rivera.
I don't have him on the hot seat. I just think that he may be gone, but I don't think it's like a if you do this, you're fired. I just think it's time. I just think it's time.
That's
So
what I'm saying. Like
but
that's the definition of hot seat.
well, no, but
That's
when I think of
that's.
but when I think of hot seat, I think negative. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I think
you're
it's
not
negative when
working
you don't
out.
win
I don't,
football games.
you know what I'm saying? I don't think it's there because I mean he did just make the playoffs like what 2 years ago. So I mean it's not as if he hasn't
Nick
had
Nurse won an
a
NBA
certain level of
championship and they fired him. Dwayne Casey
yeah, he
won
got
Coach of the Year in
4 years
the
after that
NBA and
though.
got fired. Coach
Nick
of the
Nurse
Year and
got
got
4
fired.
years after that.
Yeah, but they went to the playoffs every year. So he
Hey,
won a championship. They go to the playoffs every year and they fire him.
and
So
then they went to the
Ron
play-in.
Rivera is because think about it. Is Philly gonna be better after this season? Or are they gonna be worse?
I don't
If you
know.
think about it. If you had to project out
I
based
mean, if
on
you
the
had to project it, you'd probably say that
you
they're
got
good for the
AJ
next
Brown
2 or
still.
3 years.
They're
Yeah,
good for the next 2 or 3 years.
yeah.
Dallas is probably going to be good for the next
They're
couple of
always
years.
talented. Yeah.
The Giants just locked up their quarterback, and they probably still have money to sign like some free agent wide receiver maybe in the next couple of years. And their defense is looking good, and their coach looks pretty competent. Of those 4 teams, to include the Commanders, if you're the new owner and you're making a 5-year projection on your team based off of the previous years under the other regime, does Ron Rivera look like he can get your team to anywhere near these other 3 teams in your division?
No.
So then he's on the hot
No,
seat. So this is his year to prove
I
it.
guess we're more or less arguing semantics at this point. Like I just think it's time for him to go. I just don't view it as like, yo, Ron, get the hell out of here. I just think it's like
I do.
I just think it's more like
that's my definition of hot seat. My
I think
definition
it's
of hot
more
seat is
like
like you're hired right now. You are employed by the team as head coach right now,
yeah.
and you are literally coaching for your job. So that
Like
like I don't think every coach is coaching for their job.
well,
I
I
don't think
truly
Mike
feel like he could have
McDaniels
a
is
winning
coaching for his
record.
job.
Well, I feel like he could have a winning record and still be let go.
I don't think so. Because
You know
I
what I
don't
mean?
think
Like
anyone expects him to have a winning record. If I think a winning record is an overachievement for him. I think the Bruce Arians movement from the winning record up to the top was because he was butting heads with an
with Tom
established
Brady.
legend
Right.
quarterback.
Right.
So
Right.
that was a tumultuous split that they had.
That makes sense.
But
Yeah.
But in regards to if I got a young quarterback and I have a defensive head coach and I got this dynamic offensive coordinator, if people can kind of adjust to his attitude, or maybe he can, kind of curtail it to where he's not, just demonstrative figure in
Right.
practice, then I think as a Magic Johnson, these new ownership groups, they're like, we got a coach in waiting. We can let Ron Rivera go.
And that's what I'm saying. I think that's what they're banking on is like, hey, let Howell get out there for a year, under Bieniemy or whatever. Bieniemy takes over. It's just time,
Yeah,
but
I'm gonna call that Fuego. We're gonna go Fuego since
and
he's
then
Mexican American.
and then all
Fuego.
right, so then we got the NFC North. I think all the coaches there are pretty safe for the most part. Like I know you brought up LaFleur a little bit
Campbell,
the other day.
LaFleur is good because he has Jordan Love.
Eberflus.
Chicago, I think he might be the guy because every move Chicago made in the offseason is making people think that they're going to be better than they are. So if they end up with a top 6 pick again, he's gone. Because you have to think about the moves they made from the trade deadline last season up until today. You got Chase Claypool, big wide receiver target. Then you got DJ Moore, big
Gave
target.
up everything to get him.
They just gave up. They got some other.
Well, no,
They gave up.
Carolina gave up everything to get the pick.
Yeah, Carolina, gave up everything to get the pick.
Yeah.
So they got extra picks. Then you can move Mooney to the slot. So offensively, you get to go. You still have your running back core, and you have the personality of monsters of midway, and you have a defensive coach. So you're like, listen, coach, we gave you big playmakers on offense. So now you don't have to worry about both. You're a defensive coach. We gave you the big bodies. Get the offensive coordinator to figure that part out. Now you go fix this defense. Because what's going to cause some games is Justin Fields having to throw the ball 40 or 45 times. And like throw it deep because they're down 13 points at halftime consistently out of these 18 weeks. That's going to cost him his job because an offensive coach, not necessarily like Nag, I'm trying to think like who's probably going to be a hot offensive team. We'll go with the Buffalo Bills.
Kellen Moore.
I mean, if they get over the hump,
he's already a hot name. You know what I mean?
You give me the offensive coordinator in Minnesota. You know him with O'Connell, the head coach there. Maybe he gets hot, and Kirk Cousins has like another career year.
Yeah,
and they're looking around like, whoa, Kirk Cousins had last a great couple of years. What's going on there in Minnesota with their offensive coordinator? Maybe one of these young quarterbacks like the
Indy, Kafka.
Kafka out of Buffalo, right?
Not Giants. Yeah.
So come on, if Daniel Jones throws for 22 touchdowns and 6 picks, Kafka's getting hired by somebody. And I can guarantee you if Chicago looks inept on offense and inept on defense and exciting on offense, they're gonna throw it all at the feet of Matt Eberflus. So I got him on a hot seat.
Okay.
And his name is just enough to get him fired.
Yeah, his name. I'm tired of saying it.
NFC South, you got Dennis Allen, but I think
Dennis Allen
do pretty well. Dennis Allen they have a chance to win the NFC South. I mean, even though, like I said, I'm a Falcons fan.
Well, that's the thing. I think if they don't win the NFC South, because he was already on the hot seat at the end of last season, even though he shouldn't have been per se. Like, I'm not saying he did a good job, but like you mentioned, the quarterback injuries, like you can't fault him for having to play Andy Dalton.
If any point in the season they're like 3-5, because teams go 3-5 and you get a stretch. Like for instance, I'm looking at the Raiders schedule, right? Let's say you're 3-5 after 8 weeks.
Yeah,
and then you get a stretch like Giants, Jets, Miami, Kansas City. Say hypothetically in a fair world, those were 4 average or mediocre teams. You can go 3-5 and go on a 4-game tear. Now you're 75. I think a lot of teams end up they needed to fire their coach, and then they go on that easy stretch and they keep the coach. It happened with Bruce Arians with the Super Bowl. Like everyone's talking about Tampa Bay and making that run. Well, like I think that relationship was probably already shredded.
Right.
They went to the bye week, and then Tom Brady was like, "Listen, we're doing it my way." And when it went to his way, they had the stretch at the end of the year. Then they went through the playoffs and they won the Super Bowl. So when they came back the following year, he was like, "Why on earth would I go back to doing it your way when my way over the last 8 weeks of last year got us a ring?" So it's one of those situations where you got to fire him like Frank Wright. Frank Wright got fired when they were like 3-5, 3-6. Like we didn't think it was his fault, but you got to get him out of there. Granted, you don't bring in Jeff Saturday, but that's neither here nor there.
Right. So yeah, that's what I think. I think if the Saints start out like that, he's gone.
He's gone
on the spot. Otherwise, if he makes it through the season and they say go 7-10 or lower than that, he's out of there just because of the money that they gave Carr. Not that they broke the bank, but you know what I mean? Yeah. They brought him in there to be the missing piece.
If they go 7-10 and Derek Carr plays 15 to 17 games, then yeah, he's fired.
Yeah, he's out of there.
Or like I said, Arthur Blank doesn't fire anyone.
Yeah,
I
Reich is
personally,
good because he just got there.
Todd
Bowles
Bowles
is
is done.
gone.
He's done at the bye week. Yeah, him and Baker Mayfield are both done at the bye week because he's going to name Baker Mayfield the starter because he's the defensive coach and he's going to think defensively. He's like, let
Well,
me get
Kyle
a
Trask
guy.
also sucks.
Who knows? Maybe he does.
I
Maybe he
know.
doesn't.
I know.
So him and Baker, I think is by I think their bye week is week 6, from what I can recall from our
Yeah, he could be gone by
earlier.
then.
Yeah, he'll
Especially
be
if they're
gone by
sitting on
then.
2-4, 1-5.
And they don't look good. They don't look
Yeah.
appealing. And then they can't be put on TV because all of the seats are empty. Because that used to happen.
What, you picked them to go 3-14 or something like that?
I picked something like that because I think that early in the season, I think by that bye week, which I believe, like I said, is week 6 or 7, they're going to purge.
Yeah,
I think they're gonna clean house. I think
yeah.
they missed up by getting rid of Byron Leftwich too early.
Yeah,
I would have kept him for
he
one
should
more
have been
year.
the head coach.
Me and my father were talking about this the other day. He was like, they promoted the wrong guy. They should have let Todd Bowles continue to work the defense and then let
we want you to hire
Tom Brady be the coach on the field.
The NFL needs to understand we want them to hire black coaches, but they got to hire the right black coaches.
Yeah, don't just be hiring anybody because they dark skin.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, Bowles is out of there. Over in the West,
NFC West.
Is McVay going to take his ball and go home? He's not on the hot seat, but is he going to? But he's coming across to me as you know what I mean? If we don't do this, or if we're not a Super Bowl contender, I don't want to do this anymore. So if the Rams go 6-11, 7-10, does he just take his ball and go home?
He's going to Fox. That's
what I'm saying. So he's not on the hot seat, but I could see him not being there next year.
He's on the he has the eject. He's holding on to the ejection seat handle. He's gonna yank that himself.
Yeah.
So we'll call him gone. We'll just say he's gone.
Cardinals
Pete Carroll
just
is good.
Coach.
Cardinals good. Shanahan's good because they've people talked about all those picks he gave up to get Trey Lance. They survived that.
Yeah, I think Shanahan.
If that would happen anywhere else, it would have been detrimental to that team.
I think Shanahan would be next year. If Seattle wins the division this year, like I said, you know what I mean? Maybe they give him a pass because of the quarterback situation. But eventually it's yo, you're the guru, figure this shit out. You know what I mean? So next year could be a year where
I think you would, even if you wanted to get rid of him though,
you can't.
Who you bringing in?
You can't.
I think he has enough cachet to where, for instance, and we'll go to the AFC, but we knew Nathaniel Hackett was replaceable.
Right.
We know that Todd Bowles is replaceable. We know that Ron Rivera is replaceable. They're not. We knew that Cliff Kingsbury, even though he had this dynamic expectation from Texas Tech on his football with Patrick Mahomes and all these other guys, and his time at Texas A&M with Johnny Manziel, we knew he was an offensive-minded coach. But when he got hired, we were like, okay, this dude's replaceable. McVay right now doesn't give off that same vibe as we can fire him and bring somebody else in because of his immediate impact. And I think that's what Shanahan has. He has that leverage because he had immediate impact in Cleveland, not to mention the family name. He had the impact in Atlanta, and then he came to San Francisco. And I think his personality works. It works with the media. I think people like the way he looks. I think he just has that. Factor.
Yeah.
He has the it factor that you just can't. You're not going to bring in another John Tom Sula or whatever the guy's name is to replace him like they did with Harbaugh because they made that mistake. Harbaugh had the personality that he still should be coaching the 49ers, realistically.
Yeah, he might be in the NFL next year. They keep the NCAA keep trying to suspend him over these cheeseburgers.
Every single year he's
over the cheeseburgers, bro. He about to go to the NFL because of some damn cheeseburgers.
Got these cheeseburgers.
You know what I'm saying?
What you say to me?
AFC East, we got to start with the Jetropolitans, right?
I
don't think he should be.
Aaron Rodgers playing?
I'd say maybe 2 more after this one. And
so
that's
you
being
got him
generous.
Playing 3 seasons to include this one.
Yes.
if
I think that's
he
the let me put it like this. I think that's the plan, but obviously he's going to decline. And he might have already started actually, you know what I
but
mean?
but
So
but my thing is not even a decline. So like I said, so Salah,
I
if
like Salah, but
If Aaron Rodgers tells management or gives them a real, hey, I'm here for 3 seasons to include this season and 2 more, then I think they will fire him if they had a bad season this year and try to bring in an offensive
that's
guy
what I'm
and
saying.
capitalize
Yeah,
off the 2 years.
that's my
But that
thought.
I think that's all predicated on Aaron saying I'm going to be here 2 more years,
Right.
because you don't want to fire the head coach and you got a guy who's been contemplating retirement since Bush was president, and
Right.
then all of a sudden it's like, mm, well, since Obama was president, well, I give him credit. He's been contemplating retirement since Obama was president. So I don't know if you want to rock that boat because so another sport, another guy I like to bring up a lot. He plays basketball. When LeBron decided to go to Miami, people were saying he should go back to Cleveland. I was like, a week before he made his announcement, they fired the GM, the head coach, and like the president. It's like you got a guy who said I want to be part of a rebuild, and you fire every position
Right.
that would need to be in place for a rebuild. It was like, that's not going to work. So if you fire Salah before he decides if he's going to play 2 more years, I think they could put you in a position where you're begging him to stay or you're paying Zach Wilson. So I think he's safe, and their defense is good, and I think they'll do well. I think they'll do well because I think the turnover that they get on their side of the 50, he'll turn into points
I just
more
think
often than Zach Wilson.
if it goes bad, they need a scapegoat.
But I don't think it's going to go bad. I don't. I think
How many times have we sat here and
I think
seen these
Miami has a
teams?
better chance of going bad
I
than the
agree with
Jets.
that, but how many times have we seen these teams that look the part or have the part and it just doesn't work out for some reason? And there's always a scapegoat. I mean, even Del Harris had to go so Phil Jackson could come in. You know what I mean? Like we see this all the time.
Yeah, but that was a different order. Like if you had, well, I guess it's kind of very similar. But this with Robert Saleh, he's known for defense and their defense, because it was a point where last year, I think it was the New England game or maybe the Green Bay game when the Jets beat Green Bay. I think they were 5-2 after that game.
Yeah,
That's rare for them to have in recent history.
right. And then they
For
beat
them to have
Buffalo.
that kind of record that late. So we all as fans, if you're like a true fan of the Jets or if you're just a fan of football, when they were on prime time, we saw a lot of those Zach Wilson throws. It was like, yo, dog, Garrett Wilson's wide open in the middle of the field. Or when they run a little screen with Barrios in the flat, and it's like, yo, he's a punt returner. Just get the ball in his hands any kind of way you can, even if you got to flip it, like just flip it. Just get the ball to
And then
him.
they're gonna let him go to Miami.
And he just, the ball was like literally going sailing over his head. So I think Aaron Rodgers, if he comes in and plays like Trent Dilfer, with the defense in the run game, you got Delvin Cook, Brees Hall is back. I think it was Pittman, another running back that they had. So I think they got a 3-headed monster, a running back who was saying before they even signed Delvin Cook, yeah, we good over here, running back. So I think that they have enough to where
And then they went out and got two of his Green Bay buddies too.
got his Green Bay buddies. I saw something that they were thinking about trading for Bakhtiari. I don't know what they have as far as
Right.
capital to make that
Right.
trade. But if you're willing to put all this stuff around Aaron Rodgers, and I think I think Salah's locked in. I think he's good because, like I said, defensively to perform. You got Sauce Gardner, you got the cornerback on the other side making plays. I think they'll be good to go. I don't know what their record's going to be, because I said we'll get to the AFC East and break that down. But
Yeah, I think the rest of
they'll
the
do well.
division is good.
Yeah, like McDaniels is good.
He's good because he has the Tua thing anyway. So we just don't know Tua's health. So if he gets hurt again,
What
you
he
can't.
has is like I've I haven't seen Miami make moves like they've made over the last couple of years to make their team relevant. Because even if you
Right.
think about their football stadium, it's like a 60,000 seat stadium. So even the new stadium they built didn't feel like I'm making this move to be like just like this grand
We're
gesture.
on the come up. Yeah.
Yeah, Dallas when Jerry Jones built Jerry World, it was 100. He's like, I'm trying to. He had boxing matches in there. It was like the first stadium that I can recall off the top of my head that was advertised that cost more than $1 billion. You knew he was putting work into it. The big screen, it's like
Yeah.
60 yards, so like you knew that, oh, I'm here to celebrate NFL football, the Texas football culture. Everything's bigger in Texas. Miami built a whole new stadium. It looked like a soccer stadium. It's like open, it's kind of chill, it's like 60,000 seats. So they
Yeah.
never really made those moves. So when they made these moves to get like Tyreek Hill and Waddle and drafting, like, like going on making trades for Chubb and get Larry Tunsil, it's like, okay, they're really putting it together. Maybe I would have taken Herbert over Tua, but that's just me.
Right.
But
Right.
like I said,
Right.
they're putting the players around. It's like, okay, Miami's making moves. So I think McDaniels is safe. So if we go AFC North, I think they're all pretty much locked in.
So
You think it's Stefanski?
no, I think it's Harbaugh.
No way. Legacy. Legacy.
I think it's Harbaugh. I think it's time. Like we argued about his fourth down calls. They just gave Lamar the money, all that good stuff like that. So like, I don't think that it's necessarily like a put up or shut up year type situation. But I think we're entering the waters of a couple of more situations like that, and we're going to have to start having
I think
conversations.
I think he's in a Shanahan bubble. I think he's in that rarefied McVay Shanahan. I
And
think
he
he's
actually
in
got
that
the Super
air.
Bowl.
He has a Super Bowl victory, and he has that. That saying, like, you don't want to follow the legend. You want to be the guy that followed the legend.
The
Like
guy that followed the guy that followed the legend.
yeah, the
Yeah.
guy that followed. So Andrew Luck slid into Indianapolis at the perfect time because like Sorgi and Curtis Painter struggled their way through, and then they got rid of Peyton Manning with the Denver, and then Andrew Luck came in. It was good to go. Aaron
Right.
Rodgers is the exception to the rule, but he had a couple of rough years in the middle. So what you want if John Harbaugh leaves, the standard is still Baltimore Ravens football. Like if you think Baltimore Ravens football, you think Terrell Suggs, Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, uh, Jonathan Ogden, Trent Dilfer winning Super Bowl, the defense, and you just think this Ozzie Newsome, you just Shannon Sharp. Like I mean, you have like these names and these personalities. John Harbaugh is one of those guys that fits in there. Now, it's probably tough for a middle linebacker to come in and be Ray Lewis, but
Right.
he can put up 100 plus tackles. Like Roquan Smith can come in and put up 100 plus tackles, and they can say he is carrying the torch for Raven football. What coach are you bringing in? Because everyone's getting younger coaches. Everyone's getting these 37, 36, 39-year-old coaches somewhere in that
Well, a lot of
range.
these coaches are like, I don't want to say unknown because they're not unknown, but they weren't necessarily like,
Unseasoned.
yeah, because like, McVay had a reputation around the league, but I don't think the casual fan was like, oh, they
Oh,
got
he's
Sean
next.
McVay,
Oh,
like,
he's next. Yeah.
or LaFleur, Matt
But
Vrabel,
all those
people like
guys
that.
followed bums.
They
Jeff
did.
Fisher. They follow like, okay, who was the coach?
McCarthy.
Was it Jim Tom Sula
Yeah.
and that Shanahan replaced
Yeah.
McCarthy? McCarthy had a scandal on his way out. And once
Yeah.
again, people we talk about this a lot. The way you look, like your aesthetic does matter. Mike McCarthy does not look. He's not a handsome guy.
All right,
He
Skip.
he doesn't like the whole weight thing. People bash Skip for it because it's on TV. McVay looks the part. His
Right.
girlfriend,
He looks
fiance, looks the
Hollywood.
part. But LaFleur looks the part. what's the boy? Zach in Cincinnati looks the
Oh,
part.
yeah.
You know, Jim Harbaugh looks the part, or John Harbaugh looks the part. Mike Tomlin, like these guys have that. Denny Green didn't look the part.
Zach
Some of
Taylor.
these
There you
Zach Taylor, Todd Bowles just looks confused. Todd Bowles does not look like he commands the room.
He looked like Mr. Magoo out there.
Byron Leftwich did though. Byron Leftwich looks he had that. He was a big dude. He's like 6'5", 6'6", quarterback.
And he would have got in Tom Brady's face.
And he would have been eye to eye with him. So that
Yeah.
argument would have looked different. So that argument in a competitive sense, Bruce Arians, he had like a different kind of swag to him. You know, where like you need that. Ron Rivera looks like a guy. He looks very sturdy, strong. I'm not taking your bullshit kind of guy. Old boy in Arizona that they hired was Gannon or whatever. Who they hired?
Jonathan Gannon. Yeah.
Yo, he looks like a science teacher.
Yeah.
He looks like he's gonna get bullied. No facial hair. Like, come on, dog. You ain't got no facial hair. You got a mustache. Like, give me like you gotta have that kind of cachet the way you walk into the room. Bill O'Brien is another guy. Big guy, but he just never had that. He never looked like he was in charge of the room. Nathaniel Hackett, we'll talk about the AFC West. He looked confused. He didn't look very sure of himself. LaFleur, he went toe-to-toe with Aaron Rodgers for 3 years.
Yeah.
Grant, he got him 4 years. He got him 2 MVPs, but that first year is like, no, we're gonna run my playbook. Granted, I'm pretty sure they got together, but you can just tell that he was making the calls.
He had to let Aaron Rodgers know there's a new sheriff in town.
Exactly.
Like, I don't know what y'all was doing around here before.
Yeah.
But this is what we doing now.
Yeah, the fat cross-eyed dude is gone. Like, I'm here now. Like, I'm here. I'm handsome. I'm smart.
Sean Payton, you know what I'm saying? Hey, Russ, get your guy up out of here.
Yo, he command Bill Parcells. Some of these guys command the room. And it's just, you know, Art Shell, big body, former offensive lineman. You can John Thompson, coach of Georgetown, like certain guys.
Jeff Saturday.
Jeff Saturday didn't have it. Jeff Saturday looked like a dude that dressed up for like kids' birthday parties on Saturdays. Like just a happy, jovial guy. He was always just, you know, like you could just tell certain guys just have it and they don't.
Yeah, he reminded me of Newman. He reminded me of Newman from Seinfeld.
Imagine Skip Bayless is your head coach and he's yelling at you about not making a block versus
are you kidding me?
Yeah. You know, so it just certain people just kind of have that cachet. And I just think that, you know,
he gonna walk up on Aaron Donald talking about put your glasses back on.
And he's gonna slap him right in the face.
All right. So then you got the AFC South, you know, so obviously DeMeco Ryans just got hired.
He's good.
You know, he's gonna get 3 or 4 years, hopefully.
Vrabel has 2 young quarterbacks and Ryan Tannehill, which everyone seems to make the scapegoat. So I think he'll go before Vrabel does.
Yeah, like whatever I felt about like Jimmy Garoppolo, like Ryan Tannehill is like the poor man's Garoppolo.
Yeah, Ryan Tannehill is one of those guys. Is like I want to give him like Garoppolo credit, but it seems like he does throw the game away every so often.
He was a wide receiver too. So I mean, he's like not a natural quarterback in that way. I know, but I'm just saying.
He was a quarterback before.
People like Garoppolo.
Wide receiver.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying.
I've just seen him throw. I just seen him throw the game away. You know, a couple times, like important times. Like,
well, they lost a playoff game where the defense gave them 9 sacks.
Yeah, Cincinnati game. That's the year that the Joe Burrow and he threw through the linebacker was standing right there. It was like just balls. Like he probably thought about all the years he played football in his life, and he thought to himself, "I've never had a ball come to me this clean before." And he just was standing right there, just like. And they're like, Cincinnati's going to win the game.
Asante Samuel style. Don't come for me, Asante.
Whoa. You know what I'm saying? I wish he would have caught that. 19, that would have been crazy. That would have been a crazy conversation.
I know.
But I think the AFC South, they're good to go.
Yeah, Doug Peterson's good. Steichen just got his job. So, yeah, they're good to go. And then we come to the West, get Josh McDaniels out of here.
Yeah, see, that's the thing.
They keep hiring him. Like, I don't know how he got a job after the whole Indianapolis thing.
Yo, listen, man. A lot of like you gotta be in the right room. You gotta shake the right hands, kiss the right babies. Yeah, I think somebody called in a favor. But the Raiders owner won't change his haircut. And it's terrible.
You know who he looked like? You remember that old movie Problem Child?
Oh, he looks like the Problem Child.
He looked like Junior, bro. No, he looked like Junior.
Yeah, the problem child grown up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So so that's the thing. If he can look in the mirror every day and be like, you know what, this is what I'm going with, he's not gonna get rid of Josh McDaniels.
Like he looked like his goal in life was to be one of the Three Stooges.
I think he's like, I think he wakes up like, you know what, I'm so rich that my hair is irrelevant.
That's probably true. But Brandon
But I think he's
Staley, on the
good.
other hand, better be looking over his shoulder.
Brandon Staley's out of there. He's of all the coaches in the league, I think he's on the hottest seat because they just paid the quarterback a lot of money.
Now you gotta get it
And
done.
now you got to get it done.
You gotta at least get to an AFC championship game.
You got to look like you can get to one.
Well,
Gotta,
like
every single week, you got to look like you know what you're doing. You can't have lapses in 2 or 3 games in a row where it looks like you're out there hacking it like Nathaniel Hackett.
Well, when I went to Wyoming, I was working with some missileers, and they just had all the drama, all the fuckery all the time. So I told them, like, yo, don't nobody fuck up like a missileer fucks up. So, like, nobody fucks up like Staley fucks up. Like, the game against the Raiders in year 1, all you got to do is tie the game and you get to the playoffs. And he went for 4th and 1 at his own 20, got stopped.
It wasn't even 4th and 1. It was like 4th and 2.5. It was like a long 2, almost a 3.
And then there was the whole overtime thing where the Raiders were like, yo, we were just going to let the clock run out. Like, he called that timeout.
But you can't fault him for that because you don't know that's what they were going to do.
No, but when you add it all up together, like, you can't. So in the moment,
that was like
contextually,
I'll give him credit for that one.
Contextually, you can't fault him. But if you're just looking at a big picture, it's just a part of the story. And then the 27-0 against Jacksonville.
The 27 points was a bad look, but I mean, it happens to the best of us. Dan Quinn got like 2 more years after the 28-3 Super Bowl debacle because Atlanta made the playoffs the following year.
Right.
But that Raiders overtime game, I'll give you the going forward on your side of the field. That was just
not only your side of the field, at your own 20.
It's like,
and then hold up, matter of fact, and then there was another game last year against Cleveland where it was like a minute and a half left. He went for it at like the 46.
And then the defense saved him.
Yeah. So I mean, like, this is just what he does.
He if he doesn't throw passes there, I think he's good to go because in that situation it was like, if you get the first down, the game is over. Because that's the same argument I had with Atlanta against New Orleans. Call the timeout. I know it's 4th and 1. But pull your guys over and say, hey, if we get this 1 yard, the game is over. Like, they can't stop the clock. But you got to have the confidence to run like a good play. I think the play calling is bad in those situations. But the Raiders game is like, there's no way you can think in your head. If I'm a Raiders fan, I'm not putting a rival into the playoffs. I don't want someone who's already seen me twice this year in the playoffs, and inexplicably you both make it to the AFC Championship game, and that's the 3rd time I played you guys this year. You know all my plays. I never ran.
Or was it the other way around? Did I get that wrong?
No, it was
the other way around. Did he call the timeout, or did he not call the timeout?
Staley called the timeout.
Okay,
and I think he called the timeout either for maybe the Raiders run another play and maybe fumble, or somehow he was trying to conserve time because if they kicked the field goal and missed, he would have had the ball somewhere near midfield. I think it was like a 50+ yard field goal or somewhere in that range. So you put the ball down at the 42, 43 yard line. It's like, something like that. Like, so you snap it, from like the 46 yard line or 36 yard line. He's like a 53 yard field goal. So he gets the ball somewhere around midfield with 20-something seconds left. Because you can't look across the field and see your division opponent and think, oh, they're going to let us in the playoffs. So he had to do what he had to do. It's just he had to do that because he was ill-prepared with the other decisions he was making in previous games and
in that game. And that's what I'm saying. So I think
that's the biggest problem.
Yes, I think that his story is just written. Like, you know what I mean? Like if the Chargers don't get to the AFC Championship game or something along those lines, if they don't go 12-5 or 11-6, like going into the playoffs, he's because I think they'll still make the playoffs, but going into the playoffs,
That could be tough. You got to keep in mind, the AFC East might get 3 teams in.
That's true. The AFC North might get 3 teams in if Pittsburgh is better than
or it'll be close. Like I don't know, it'll be a close situation where the tiebreaker could be
like last year. Pittsburgh almost got in last year.
Yeah, a lot of AFC teams are going to be good.
Yeah,
a lot of them have young quarterbacks. And
remember Pittsburgh had that. Pittsburgh had that like wild scenario last year where like if New England does this and then Miami does that and like
if somebody else ties and somebody else loses, they would have been in.
Yeah, so, like they could end up like that.
It's a tough situation because you figure Jacksonville's going to be as good as they were last year.
Yeah, but
I think Jets are probably going to be better.
But I'm thinking only one team is going to make it out of that division, though, unless So if you get 3 from the AFC East, you get Jacksonville, you get at least 2 from the North. You know what I mean? So like,
and then you get Kansas City. So that's
and it's you or Denver, potentially.
But long as he sticks to, if you're going to go for it on 4th and 2, I'm with it. Just don't do what Don't you
bring it up. Don't you bring it up.
No. Like if it's 4th and 2 in the first half from the 3.
Yeah.
Don't kick the field goal. And then 4th and 2 from the 47 in the third quarter. Go for it.
Right.
Like pick a strategy you're gonna run with. And because in the Los Angeles Jacksonville playoff game, it was a couple of situations where probably should have just gone for it. You had a big enough lead to where kicking the field goal didn't put Jacksonville out of their misery.
Right.
Getting the touchdown, yeah, maybe you don't get it, but more likely your expectation that you're going to blow a lead that's that big, unlikely.
Right.
So I would have just gone for it. So as long as he can figure out a way when he's going to go for it. And just come up with better plays. Just don't go 5. Don't go 5 wide.
Well, now that's the thing. New offensive coordinator now. So, we'll have to see how that looks. What if Herbert, only throws 22 touchdown passes this year?
He's going to throw more because...
Yeah, I know. There's going to be an emphasis for him to throw more, especially now that he got paid. So, you know what I mean? And hopefully those receivers can stay healthy for a full season. They got Palmer back there, that I like. He got some snaps last year. They got Carter, who got some snaps last year. So even if the injuries happen, theoretically, they should be okay. So, but he's definitely on the hot seat. He's probably facing the most pressure, followed by Todd Bowles.
I think Todd Bowles is on a hot seat because I think people want to get rid of him. I don't really think it's performance based. I think it's just a matter of you are probably not going to perform. I think there's expectation that it won't get better, and I don't think he'll get the leeway of having an average.
I wonder if we might see Bruce Arians come back downstairs.
Hell no.
No, not for good, but like if they fire him in the middle of the season, just bring Bruce down for the season.
Bruce, like, listen, man, go ahead and give me another boat. Just buy me a boat, put out in the bay, let me chill. Like that's what I want because, like I said, I think Staley's on the hook, on the hot seat, simply because his team is so talented.
Right.
His team is talented. His quarterback is young, and his quarterback has never struggled.
Right.
So I don't think Herbert's missed a game, even with the ribs. Like the play where against Kansas City where he couldn't throw the ball on like second down, he just threw it into the ground. He went to the huddle, took a deep breath, and then on third down threw a dot for a first down to like inside the 5-yard line.
Yeah.
So even with that pain, it just was like, okay, you have a big tough quarterback who's never struggled. Why are you struggling as a coach? Because
they play Kansas City well. They just could never close it out.
Because one game, I think they should have just kicked a couple field goals inside the 5, 4th and whatever. Just kick the.
Well, I think these teams just get into their own head and they don't trust themselves. They see Patrick Mahomes.
The New England conundrum.
Yeah, you see Patrick Mahomes over there and like you shit your pants.
It's like, yo, these 3 points, he can't do nothing about that. I'm like, he's not allowed to block this field goal.
Yeah, because he
Yeah,
probably could if he wanted to.
yo, probably
But
hobble out there.
you know what I mean? But like, yeah, like so I think that yeah, I think that's so there's a few coaches on the hot seat, going into this year. There's always a shocker, that comes out of nowhere.
Who would be the
So
shock? Who would you think would be the shocker this year? Like of all the teams we ran through, who like he doesn't make it because like this is who I have written down. I think we agreed upon this. I got Rivera. You don't, but I got Rivera, Eberflus, Todd Bowles, Sean McVay, Brandon Staley. Those are the 5 that I have. I think everybody else is pretty secure. The surprise.
I mean, the surprise, I guess you brought his name up, but I guess Stefanski could be the surprise,
I
but I
think
don't
that
really
would.
think, but I don't really think that's a surprise though, because that's Cleveland and that's just what they do. Like they don't give
Yeah,
their coaches time, so like I wouldn't see it as like it would be shocking, like hey, why they fire him? But it's Cleveland, so I wouldn't be like, yo,
yeah,
where'd that come from? You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
So
Like if Cincinnati fired their coach, that'd be like, whoa,
yeah,
what's
you'd be
going
like,
on?
what's going on? Yeah, like so I think like honestly, out of the coaches that we spoke about, just from a scapegoat perspective, like I said, I think Salah could be the surprise.
You got
Just
solid be a
just just
surprise.
just depending on how it goes. Like I don't think he should be. I don't think he will be. But I'm just saying that if it doesn't go to plan,
If they're under 500, because I was watching Rich Eisen because I was watching Rich Eisen show. He's a big Jets fan, and they were talking about like their early part of their season. It was like they could no, I
they
think
could
it
start
was
off.
Rich
They could
Eisen.
start
They
off
could start
like
for
one and
0-4,
three. Yeah,
1-3, 0-4. Yeah,
yeah,
so
they
it was
could.
like that's tough in here
But
and
but I
this
don't
on
think
this
they.
block.
I don't think they would fire him then though. Like I don't think he would get like a. I don't think he would be a bye week fire really if they were to fire him.
I don't unless, and this is a stretch, unless Aaron Rodgers really believes in Nathaniel Hackett. I don't know if you
Oh.
are the Johnson and Johnson CEO and you've been selling band-aids and baby powder for generations, you would make such a hasty and semi ill-informed decision.
Right.
But if Aaron Rodgers is like, hey, I think Hackett could, like, I don't know what evidence he would use because we got 11 games last year. We
Like
got
he
week
just say
one
that's my
against
guy. Like
Seattle.
he
Week one against Seattle let us all know that that guy was not going to be he was not the guy for the job. And then
or
when he hired the guy to go in the box and they were playing against the Colts, it was like,
or you brought up a couple of weeks
nah.
ago. You brought up a couple of weeks ago because I was talking about how I thought Vrabel was a good coach, and you were basically like, "Yo, he ain't that good." So like maybe he could be the surprise.
Well, what he has is an underperforming quarterback and 2 young prospects. So in a fight for your life meeting, he could say Tannehill is holding us back as a team, or I think I can get Will Levis in here with Derrick Henry in our running game, and we can win games.
And oh, by the way, we just got D Hop.
So I think that's his leeway. Unless you could look at it like this: you get rid of the old quarterback, like you bench the old quarterback, you fire the coach, you bring in or you move up an offensive coordinator, and they start Malik Willis or Will Levis, and Tannehill's the third guy holding the clipboard, and then you go in the offseason a la what Carolina did and go get a guy who was abruptly fired, i.e. a Kevin Stefanski. Stefanski
Yeah,
gets fired. He sits for the rest of his year. Cleveland's paying him his money. And then you hire an interim guy. Season ends. You're 5-12. You move Derrick Henry. You go get this coach. So, like, that seems like a thing because your division as an AFC South, your division isn't going to be like Washington. Like the NFC East is going to be a couple of steps ahead of
right,
Washington.
Right.
for the next couple of years. Whereas the Titans, their division isn't gonna be. They're
Right.
gonna be in the mix. Jacksonville is gonna look like the kings of the division,
Right.
but they won't be world beaters.
Right.
They won't just turn into Kansas City. They won't just turn into Buffalo or
Right.
early 2000s New England. So I think the idea of getting rid of coach, bringing in a new GM, bringing up one of the young quarterbacks, pairing him with D Hop, maybe another big wide receiver they have, and kind of just altering, tweaking the offense that way. I can see them doing that like in the rebuild because that's what I think the Commanders are going to do when they get rid of Rivera. They're going to bring up the enemy,
Yeah.
pair him with Sam Howell, and fling it all over the field and think they're going to make Kansas City East up there in Landover, Maryland.
That's right. That's right, baby. On the worst field in the league. So I don't care what the Eagles played on. It ain't worse than FedEx.
Listen, man, I was a Chiefs fan who put extra water anywhere that, like, he was out there with the water hose every time the Philadelphia
Well,
Eagles about to snap
that's
the
a
ball.
thing. Like they used to
He
say
put
how,
water on Jalen Hurts' hands. That's why he fumbled.
that's a thing they used to talk about back in the day. How like whenever USC or Florida State would go over to Notre Dame, they wouldn't cut the grass for a couple of weeks, or like, say they'll soak it up. You know what I mean? That's a thing.
Yeah. Listen, we need a couple of weeks for these seeds to sink in. It's
Yeah.
not about the team coming in. It's about we want the field to be at its best
We
condition,
wanted it.
even though
Yes.
they all got like 6-inch spikes on their cleats,
Yeah.
and they're not slipping at all.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So,
you got to
yeah.
get advantage where you can.
That's what it is. And on that note, folks, Sports Reports is ordered. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening. Thanks for all the love and appreciation, because we appreciate you.
Like,
Have
share,
a good
subscribe.
like, share, subscribe. Have a good weekend. We'll be back on Monday. Monday night, Ravens and Commanders. Preseason football on the tube.
We'll see
We're
who
gonna be
body
talking.
slams somebody.
Yeah, talking about the AFC South. So like, it's a dirty job, but somebody got to do it, and we got you because we love you. You know what I'm saying? Sports Reports is ordered. It's the logical. See, I did it again. It's the logical. 2-5. We love you. We'll be back on Monday. Peace.